So, brothers and sisters, welcome back. Satnam, bienvenidos to another New Rich, New Energy podcast. I believe it's number 13 in the series. And I have an amazing, beautiful guest today. Her name is Mayara Souza, and she's going to be explaining sound therapy and sound healing. She's a sound therapist. I came across her watching some of her videos, and she has a beautiful truth and a beautiful message just to kind of expound on this practice that's healing humanity. So, without further ado, I want to welcome you, Mayara. How are you?
I'm doing great, Rafael. Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate being here and sharing with your audience what I'm working on. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we get into it, because I know I do have some questions, just kind of
yeah,
let the audience know who you are, kind of where you started on this journey and where you are now, and we'll get right into it. So, without further ado.
awesome. So, funny thing, I'm pretty close to you. You're out in Orlando. I'm out here on the other side of the bay. So, I just came back to this area. Actually, I was outside Seattle, living there for some time. I got a lot of training doing there for some time. But so a little bit of background on that. I came from a rough childhood, which got me into alcohol very early. I was like 12, 13 years old, and I started abusing alcohol very often. And it was like very intense. And it was a big part of my teen years, my 20s. A lot of like stupid decisions involved with, being drunk and all that. And then when I was getting close to 30, I started this healing process. And, we started kind of like coming back into myself and kind of worrying or of like where I was going with that path, drinking my head off and all that. And my father had a heart attack when he was 37 and passed away.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, when I was getting close to 30, that was one of the things that started like worrying me. It started weighing on me, and this little voice within, like, you are doing the same stuff, and I had my little girl at the time. So when I was when I was almost 30, I started looking more into actually, I started the whole thing. I started my whole research with heart conditions because I was so scared of, his situation. He was an alcoholic. He was very aggressive. And I was drinking a lot, and I was like really unbalanced mentally. I had all this anger, from the childhood abuses and everything. I had all this anger within me and very unbalanced. So when I started researching heart condition, I realized that genes are responsible for just a small percentage of developing those same conditions as our family. They say like cancer runs in my family, this other condition runs in my family. But what I realized was that the lifestyle runs in the family. We inherit the same lifestyle. So we drink as much, we eat the same stuff, we have the same type of environment around us and all that. And so the genes, the same type of genes are turned on because we are living quote unquote the same lifestyle.
Right.
So learning epigenetics in that way that we can turn on and off specific genes that we carry with us, I thought to myself like, well, I have more power than I thought on this, like my father had a heart attack. He was an alcoholic. I have been having this life of abusing alcohol. I used to smoke cigarettes for many years too, cigarettes. And so I realized that like if I can shift my lifestyle, I don't have necessarily to turn on the same genes as my father and have the same results, right? And I don't need to have any heart condition or anything like that. So I started researching more on this aspect of like, how do you shift lifestyle? Because it's like you get so conditioned, right, into doing things in a certain way. And then you have like the people around you do the same things as you do. And then the environment is affecting you big time. So I started researching that and came across a variety of practices and tools and all this stuff that I share with my clients today that I started applying for myself. And so meditation was a huge one from the beginning. It really got me to become more aware, of my behavior, of everything in my life, my environment and, people and relationships and everything. And through that process, I came across plant medicine, which was huge to help me get rid of the addiction to alcohol. It's almost like the medicine took the addiction out of my cells. Like once I got out of alcohol, I don't struggle with it. It's not that kind of thing that's like, if there is alcohol in front of me, I'm going to be kind of like, craving and wanting it.
Right.
Not at all. It's like water. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter to me if you're drinking in front of me or not. It's like I have no desire whatsoever. That is gone from me, from my mind, from my body, physical and everything.
So let me
And
ask you this before you
yeah.
continue. I didn't mean to interrupt. So as far as plant medicine, I'm a big advocate of plant medicine, myself, practitioner. What were some, so the guests would know, what are some of the plant medicines that you would recommend or what you were doing to help you with this transition?
Mhm. Well, recommending it's kind of a tricky thing because, as you know, it's not for everybody.
Right.
One thing that we say, it's like you got to feel called to it. You know, you got to be ready for it. You got to prepare and everything. Um, I did work with ayahuasca. I worked with tobacco. I did a couple of dietas myself, training. I did dieta with bobinsana and ayahuasca itself. I worked with combo also, the frog medicine,
Right.
which is very intense. I would say, like, if I knew more about it, I would have prepared myself more, you know, to work with it. So I would say this stuff is very powerful. It's very intense. Like, if it's something that, you know, your listeners feel called to do, I would say, like, totally do a lot of research on it. Pay attention to who you sit with. You know, that's very, very important.
Very important. Hmm.
Yeah, setting, like they talk about, like, people say that they know about it, they know how to do it, you know, you can sit with them and stuff. Yeah, that could be, you know, they could have this knowledge, you know, of how the whole thing works and everything. But it's like there's so many layers of it, you know, like their energy has to be like very together, you know, so they don't spill their stuff all over you and all that. So it's like so many elements to it. First thing that I would say, it's like, if you feel called to it, if you came across it and it keeps coming up again and again, and you really feel called to do work with the medicine, do some like and this is another tricky part too, when we say, like, do some research on it, and then people go on YouTube and they see those bad trips and stuff, and it's like that ruins your
It's not even like it. Yeah.
don't check on like other people's experiences, because it's very unique, right? Even like each time that you do it, you are in completely different places in your life, so the experience will be very different. I would say, don't look at other people's experiences, look at people that are researching it, you know, read books about it. I have some books that I can recommend. There's people doing research on it. Look at that, you know what I mean, rather than people's experiences, because then you come across some bad experience and you have that imprinted in your mind, and then down the road in the future, if you really decide to do it, that kind of influences your experience. So don't go there. That's the first thing I would say. Do a lot of research. If you still feel called to do it, it's going to show up for you. It's like
That's
it
how it
really,
works. Yeah.
you know how it works. It's like
That's
if
how it
something
works.
is calling you, it will come to you. It will happen. So, but anyways, the point was that, you know how it works, like there's the song that they sing to you, right? So there's the sound right there, there's the intention behind the sound that they sing, the healing song to you, with the lyrics saying exactly what they are doing, you know, like let's say, for instance, I'm taking this alcohol addiction off of you and I'm sending it back to God, or I'm sending it whatever they say, right? But there's this intentionality behind the sound frequency that it's coming and hitting you. And I started looking at that and I'm like, that's quite cool. And started getting more and more fascinated about it. And I was always a researcher. I'm not always digging, you know, like I read a lot on healing trauma. So I read a lot on like different approaches to, you know, different things that had happened, because I like my childhood, there's so many layers involved on so many different aspects of trauma that I read, you know, like across the board things in researches and, you know, tools that people were offering and everything. And so I came across sound and it was fascinating. It's like I said, even from when I was younger and wasn't yet in this healing path that I am today, music was always fascinating. How you are feeling in a certain way, you listen to this certain song, it totally changes how you feel. It literally affects you, right? And so learning sound healing in this way, I came across this specific modality that I do that's called biofield tuning. People ask me if it's similar to like the sound bath, and it is and it's not. Like the way that I defer them a little bit, and that's just like my perspective, my way of perceiving it, is that the sound bath, it's awesome. it relaxes your body big time. You totally notice afterwards how you're more relaxed, your nervous system kind of chills and all that. But I look at it as more kind of like general, right? So you go and you have this relaxation session. You might have some insights come up, some stuff, come up for you, which is great. However, the way I look at this method that we do with the tuning forks, tuning the biofield around the body, it's more specific. It's like you show up with something that you want to work on, and we work on that, right? So we have this intentionality behind the sound that we are working on this specific thing that you show up wanting to shift. And the variety of things that we work with is amazing. It's like physical stuff, people feel better from like chronic pain and, skin stuff, digestive, like sleeping better. And then mental, they notice like, it's so awesome when I get a feedback like this, that people come and they say like, this thing used to trigger the heck out of me. And now it's like, it happened and I can look at it, be objective about it. And it's like, oh, it's happening. It's okay. I'm good.
Like nothing. Absolutely.
It doesn't come in anymore. It doesn't affect you anymore. I'm like, oh my God, that's like the best thing you could hear. Imagine things out external don't trigger you as much anymore. I'm like, dude, this work is amazing.
No, that's beautiful because, when people really, because what we're speaking of is energy, and when people really understand energy, everything is solar luminescence, it's sound and light. So just like you said, when you can hone in specifically at somebody's energetic constitution and specifically have that intention, you're going to heal that portion, or your intent is to heal that portion. So the specifics is very important. I agree. I agree.
And it's awesome, like how the way that it works, right? Like the epigenetics that I was talking about before. You have this, like the way we look at it, it's very similar to the meridians and everything in Chinese medicine, the areas of the body holding on to different types of energy, like the liver, anger, and this other type of energy. It's very similar to that. And so it's interesting how the person shows up and they talk about the behavior, like for me, for instance, if I would have gone to sound healing first, like this biofield tuning with this addiction to alcohol, trying to get rid of this addiction, I would mention that to the person, right? But that's the behavior. And then as we start working with the forks, we get to hit the root of the behavior, because the behavior is just a result of something that is already latent going on in there somewhere. Like for instance, my dependency on alcohol, it's just a result of trying to numb the traumas from childhood that weren't addressed, right? So once I go and I address those trauma and I am able to detach emotionally from them, and just like, it doesn't make it okay what was done to me, but I have this new perspective of everybody was doing as best as they could with what they had in the moment, right? This forgiveness way of looking at it. And I survived, I'm good. Like I'm healthy, I'm fine. Everything is fine in my life right now. I'm safe. Nobody will abuse or will do anything to me anymore. There's this detachment from the memory. There's this detached, like emotionally detached from the memory. So it's like, it's still there. It still happened. It's still part of my story, but I don't have to cry when I talk about it. I don't have to like lose sleep because, oh my gosh, this happened to me. I'm such a victim of the world. It's not there anymore. It's kind of like you take your power back. So we look at it as these experiences that happen to us, they get stored in the field around our body because they have a certain vibration, right? And most of the time when it's something traumatic, we can't process it. Like the person was abusing me as a little girl, I couldn't, like hit them and, tell them, you motherfucker or whatever. Like I couldn't do anything, right? I was this little girl that was shut up and had to just keep it to myself. So this anger builds up. And the way we look at it, all these experiences, they are energetically, like the biophotons, they are around our body. So it's like these lenses within which we see the reality right in front of us. All of our experiences are stored in here. Like we can't really see with this physical eye, but mentally, spiritually, it's the filters within. We are seeing everything in our reality. When the sound comes to those experiences that are stored in our field, the sound interacts with that experience. And rather than being stored in there that we say holding on to it, it's released. It interacts with the sound waves and are released to be able to go back into circulation in the body, the way that the energy is supposed to flow in the body. And so it gets quote unquote processed and it becomes something new. So that's when people notice these mental shifts that they talk about, because that block of energy that was right there in front of you on your field of energy from experiences from the past, it's not there anymore. It interacted with the sound waves and it got back into circulation in the field around you. So not being there anymore, being that filter within your perceiving your reality, whatever is happening out there in your reality that is triggering this stuff that is, stagnated in there waiting to be processed, triggering this anger or whatever it is, it's not going to happen anymore. The person in front of you will have the same behavior, but you have processed that anger. So they are not going to trigger that anymore, right? So they are trying because it's the dance, right? How we do it.
Right.
So they are going to try, they're going to have the same behavior. They're going to try unconsciously, like subconsciously, they're going to try to trigger that same stuff in you because that's the dance that you used to have with that person. Not happening. No reaction, just response like, oh, you're going to be, stupid like that. Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Things change because like you said, you become balanced, that frequent, because everything is energy and frequency. And when you harmonize the body from your traumas and that's the thing, you have to acknowledge it. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't want to acknowledge these things, but once you take that accountability to acknowledge and then to work on it, and like your method, it's a beautiful thing because you no longer get triggered from the things from your past. You're like, okay, I understand them. Okay, that's cool. Like you become non-detached, I guess is the word.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a book that talks about this. I think the name is the Dance of Anger. And they talk about that. They say like, and then you do your own work and you change how you're dancing with the people in your environment, right? Your relationships. And then like subconsciously, they're trying to trigger you back into the same old dance with them because something is off. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's off of the ordinary, the way that it used to be. And that's the thing too. It's like, you got to keep up with the work because, it becomes too easy for them to keep, pushing you, trying to bring you back into that dance. So that's why these type of work, like it's a continuation of things. Like I teach people to tone themselves with the voice. Like my clients come and we use the forks, and I have like a Fibonacci pair, I have the Schumann pair, we have different frequencies that we work with different things that are going on in the body, right? But then I teach them to use their voice and just repeat the vowels, toning, and just bringing their awareness to the body and find a dysfunction, find a disorder, a disharmony in the body by the tone of your voice, how it will change. And so once it changes, you stay in that area and sending your attention to that area, your awareness with the tone of your voice until you tune that. Once you feel that it passes through and there's this free flow of energy, you go to the next. You keep like going through your body, each area of your body. And in the end, you feel the same thing. You feel relaxed. And it's even like super powerful because it's coming from your own physical body, the sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's so many ways that we can work with sound and like use it in a positive way to influence this epigenetic phenomenon that we have, that the external things do affect ourselves.
And as far as you're speaking about voice, because voice is very powerful, it's a portal, right? Are you speaking of like chants, mantras? Is that what you tell your clients, or?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's like you can come up with your own stuff. You can
Right.
use the vowels, like you start yeah, and see what comes up. I like to start this stuff without too much structure and just listen. Listen to my body, listen to what comes up. Sometimes when I tune myself with the forks, because you can do that too. Like the person doesn't have to be laying down on my table for me to tune them. I do it at a distance. I trade sessions with my friend that lives in California. So it's like we trade sessions at a distance and we feel the same stuff as we're having a session in person because of the ether, right? Everything connected. And also the intention that we are putting behind everything. So with the intention, you don't need necessarily to be there physically with the person. So much so that we talk about this, like I study the book A Course in Miracles also. I also use a lot of those teachings in the work that I do. And this is one of the things that we talk about. It's like, you do work like that, you get yourself aligned with spirit, right? Aligned with your inner self, with your higher self, with that intelligence, right? The unified intelligence. And so when you are in alignment like that, you think about someone across the country, across the globe, you think about them and they call you, like this friend that you have or whatever, because you are aligned, like you are balanced, you are like orderly, your energy, it's like balanced and harmonized with the unified intelligence. So when you send out that signal, the other person picks it up right away, right there, because you are so connected to this whole, right? To the unified intelligence. This is another thing with the sound. I do a lot of sessions at a distance and people feel it. Like me and my friend that we trade sessions, we joke about that. Sometimes we don't tell each other each area of the body that we're working on and the other person can feel it. It's like, it blows my mind. The more I study sound, the more it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
No, that's the first thing was sound. Then became light. It became a physicality. So like I said, everything is solar luminescence, and I love what you're saying. And I wanted to get a little bit more specific. This is like one of the questions I have because this is what fans like. I'm fascinated by this by sound because I do from time to time periodically listen to specific hertz and tones that they've been able to find for, like, let's say a deficiency or an illness. Like, let's say if you have stress, there's a certain tone and modality that you can listen to, a binaural beat, and it literally changes the construct and eradicates that. So if you want to kind of elaborate on that, like the different specifics of tones, even with your tuning fork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we noticed that. But the interesting thing that I personally notice about that is that I don't use specifically, like for instance, if two people show up with the same stuff, let's say we're working on depression, which is unfortunately a very common thing that we're working with today. But two different people come to work on depression, I notice that I don't feel called to use the same frequency on both.
I see.
I believe that the reasoning for that is it's coming from different things. So it's like one person is depressed because of this specific thing, I don't know, from childhood, whatever. This other person might be depressed because they just lost their job. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's so different, like the roots of everything that we are working with, that it gets stored in different areas of the body. So sometimes it's like we work, let's say if I do a few sessions in a day and I work with depression with all those people, I notice that we work with completely different forks in completely different parts of the body. So for me, I don't find that universal yet, that universal like hertz that are, work well for this thing. And then I test it with other person. It's kind of like,
I see. Okay.
yeah. And then when I'm working with another person, I notice that I work with something else because of all the unique layers that created that condition of depression in that moment that I'm working with them. And so much so that another thing too, each time that you come to my table, we might be working on the same stuff per se. Let's say like we might be working on the same trauma per se. We do work in completely different areas of the body every single time that you come to the table, because this stuff is fascinating. It's like layers on an onion, like every time you come, we take off one layer that is ready to go. One thing, we look at it as kind of like the field around the body. It's kind of like the rings on a tree, right? They tell the age of the tree. And it's kind of the same thing. So the electromagnetic field around of our body, we look at it as being about like 5 to 6 feet around the body and 2 to 3 feet above and below. So when we start working on the outer membrane of the field, it's kind of like gestation and birth, however was the situation of your mom when, in gestation time, and then how was the birth. Sometimes there's births that are very traumatic right there. And then we can notice that the fork gets stuck on the outer edge of the field and you can't bring it in. You strike
Oh
it
wow.
past that energy. It's so dense that the fork just kind of like, oh no, I'm not going yet. So what you do, you change, the input, and you bring in different forks. And we work with crystals also in this method. So we love to use especially the Lemurian seed crystal, because it's a quartz clear crystal. And what happened is that they measure the frequency within crystals, right? Just like they measure the frequency like of our brain working, like EEG, and then the frequency of the heart and all of that. So they measure the frequency within the crystals. And this clear crystal, it's known to have a very orderly frequency within, very organized frequency. And so when we strike the weighted fork that vibrates very, very intensely, we strike that fork and we place it on the crystal and place the crystal on the body. We amplify that organization with the vibration of the fork. We amplify that organization into the body. And you can totally feel it. It's very interesting. Like if I do your heart, for instance, I place the crystal on your heart and strike the fork and place the fork, the bottom of the fork on the crystal, and you can feel that energy expanding in your heart and going throughout your body. So that's the expansion of that orderly frequency that goes throughout your whole body. And then again, it can be a fork that can be whatever hertz, comes up to us, whatever frequency comes up to us. It's going to amplify that organized frequency from the Lemurian seed crystal within the body. And some people still look at it like, it's too woo-woo and stuff, but there's science behind all of this that I'm talking about. I believe our listeners are way more aware of
No, they are. And for the ones who not, yeah, everything is a living conscious being. You know what I mean? Even crystals, rock, whatever, everything is conscious, everything is living. So basically from what I'm getting from you, like when it comes to like your people who you're treating, you're very intuitive in your practice, right? You're just intuitive.
Yes, we are, because I would say like there's this conversation of my consciousness with their consciousness.
Right.
Like yesterday I was doing a session on someone and I was talking about this. There's this part of the person that, sometimes might be like, for instance, you lose sleep. It's been hard for you to sleep because your mind just wanders, and it's like it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon because your mind just want to think and, work on things and whatever. So I was kind of like connecting to that part of that person, kind of like giving that assurance that it's okay to go unconscious, because the brain also needs that. The brain also needs to go unconscious throughout the night so that the body can do its thing, can do, its repairing mode and all of that good stuff that we know. So sometimes there is this part of ourselves that get worried about something. A lot of the times it's about the future. It's not really so much reminiscing about something, it can be too, but a lot of the times we notice that it's related to something that's going to happen in the future that causes anxiety and worry somehow, for some reason, whatever is the personal reason for each person. But there's that part of them that's like, I need to solve this thing. And even though it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I need to solve. No,
Got to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing though. It's like bringing that awareness to that part of yourself that once you allow to become unconscious and go to sleep and let the body do its repairing, you're going to wake up with the answer. So it's like you are working on it, but on a smarter way.
Right. Just by being still and present and just relaxing. Absolutely.
Yes. And a lot of the times that's the answer. That's all you got to do, right?
That's it. And that was a lesson I've learned, you know what I mean? Because me being a Capricorn, I'm always like researching, you know what I mean? And sometimes when I just let it go and I focus on something, the answer comes. And that's just how energy works. That's how it works. So that's beautiful. So you're located in Clearwater, correct? Clearwater, Florida?
Yeah.
And you have your practice there? Did you just come to Clearwater, or what's like are you from the United States, or what's your background?
Yeah, so I came from Brazil.
Okay.
All that difficult stuff had happened back in Brazil. I finally moved here on my mid-20s, and I lived in Boston for some time. And I was just doing like marketing, sales, all the stuff that you come and you think like I made it, because I have the office job and doing this thing. And it's just, I was miserable, like drinking my head off and very unhappy with where I was at. And then it started my healing process and everything. I went to outside Seattle, stayed there for some time, did a lot of healing, did a lot of research, a lot of training. I got certified as a life coach. I did a lot of training in a variety of different things. I came to Florida for some time. I was spending time in Florida. I had another opportunity to go back there again outside Seattle, do some more work, do some more research, training, and all of that. I did that and I lived there for some time. And now I just came back to Florida. I have a hard time adapting to that weather.
Well,
It's like,
I know. So let me, because I was raised in California, so I'm very familiar with in the West Coast. Let me ask you this: since you were there in Seattle for a time, like getting to experience, you know, different situations in life, they say that Seattle is because of the weather. It's very depressive, very high in sewer. Like, kind of, can you kind of elaborate on that energy? Did you feel that energy when you're in that atmosphere, or?
100%.
Yeah.
So one of the things in this specific method that I work with, biofield tuning, is that we look at our bodies as a battery. It's like the electric universe, right? Like everything is this vortex of energy. When you look on a molecular level, it's this vortex of energy, and so that creates electricity, and hence the electromagnetic field of the earth and of our body and of everything else has
Hyperbola.
the
Hmm.
electromagnetic field, right?
Right.
So we recharge, we look at it in this way, that we recharge by receiving the negative energy charged from the earth and the positive from the sun. So the sun, it's kind of essential. And then you get into a space where it's cold. It's not only that it rains all the time and it's dark and the sun is covered, but it's also cold. So you don't really step on the ground as much either. I remember doing my practice going outside when it wasn't raining, it was cloudy and everything, but take my boots out to put my feet on the ground and freeze my ass off. So 100%, I noticed that. I noticed that, like the more depressive energy kind of like in the air, in the environment. I knew, a few people that would confirm that to me. They would say, like, I'm from here, I get it, like there's this history of depression for most of my life. I noticed that when I go elsewhere, that the sun is more present, I do notice the difference. And I did
Right.
too, because I'm a Brazilian person, right? So I lived all this bubbly and all that back in Brazil. And then I came to Boston, which, yes, there is winter, but I didn't notice it to be so cloudy all the time, so gloomy and dark all the time. The sun is present, even when it's like, there's snow, like super high of snow accumulating and stuff like that, the sun comes out.
Right.
So I
Right.
feel like you kind of get to recharge. So I did notice that. And I have a lot of friends there. I love the area. It's gorgeous because it rains so much. It's green everywhere. So it
Hmm.
looks amazing. The nature is gorgeous. I love the area. Like, it's really beautiful. I love the people that I know there because they resonate with me. Like, they're very spiritual. They know what I'm talking about. Like, I feel understood and accepted, by my friends on that side. But it's just the freaking weather. It's like I can't adapt to it. I did notice, how much I was getting kind of like, bummed out to be in the dark all the time. I did get myself a happy lamp. They have these happy
Happy
lamps.
lamps.
No, I want to say it probably helped me a bit because I mean, when I just came back to Florida a few months ago, I was still sane. So I don't know, it might have helped me a bit, but I do miss this whole, walking barefoot outside, having like my little summer dresses and, just not be like packed up to go outside. Kind of like, it's almost like I'm protecting myself from nature to go outside. I know it's
Right.
not just, it's cold. You got to put on your gear, right? But it didn't feel homey for me. So that's why I kind of like, I go and I get some training, I get some stuff done, and then I come back to Florida. Like I was saying, I'm leaving to California next month. California, better weather, yes, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't leave, so too expensive. But
I know. That's why I'm in
yeah.
Florida. That's why I'm in Florida. And it's just interesting because it's like you said, just by the sun itself, that that electromagnetic that's just being hidden with the clouds, it really just changes the constitute of the whole environment. Like,
Mhm.
the sun is so vital, and just like you said, our body is a biochemical, beautiful machinery. It is a battery.
Mm-hmm.
And you need that negativity. That's why you ground yourself. That's why you go out there and you walk barefoot. You need that negative polarity from Mother Earth. You know what I mean? That's what cleanses you. And then, like you said, you recharge white people sun gaze. So, no, definitely resonate with everything that you're saying because you're speaking my language. Like I'm all about energy and everything you're saying is on point. So I do appreciate it. So
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And this
excellent.
is one of the things that I recommend, for my clients. It's like sometimes you feel funky and you don't know what to do and, you're just kind of off. Go outside. Go outside, step on the ground, let some sun, hit your head. Just look at nature. Sometimes I just sit with my daughter outside. So there's this guy that I study also, Dr. Zach Bush. You probably heard of him. He talks about energy. He talks about all of that. He's focusing a lot now on the
I'll have to
Roundup.
look them up.
So look him up. I think you're going to appreciate him. He's focusing on the Roundup, how we put the Roundup on the ground, on the plants and everything. And then it gets into the ground, it goes into the river streams and everything. And then it evaporates, it goes into the clouds, and then it rains on us. So it's like, he's good with the numbers. I want to say he said 70% of the rain is contaminated with Roundup. And it's really causing a lot of like the mental, disorders that we're seeing, all this stuff. It's the chemicals on the pesticides. So he's a really cool guy, Zach Bush.
I'm gonna look them
So
up.
he talks about this. He says, like you want to have a connecting experience with your family, go outside, lay under a tree, and just look at the sky, like through the leaves, from underneath the tree, through the leaves, the branches with the leaves, and that blue background that is the sky. All of that is just like doing so much to your mental state, to your physical state, to all of you, in connecting you to nature and to your family. He said, as a family, go outside, lay under a tree, and look at the sky and just do nothing. And I'm like, dude, I love you. That's like the best advice you could give someone, to connect, right?
Right.
Like, the most beautiful thing, the energy. You are receiving the energy from the earth, from the tree close by you. You are in that electromagnetic field of the tree, of the grass. Oh my gosh, it's like,
And you're
anyways,
with your family. No, absolutely.
right? And then all that
Absolutely.
connectivity that is happening is you with your family also. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a beautiful experience. That is, and like you said, you can feel it like when you really hone in on what you're doing, like let's say sun gazing. I'm a big practitioner going out there and looking at the sun. Um, like you said, it's not only a spiritual and a mental receiving, but it's also physical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need those sun rays. We need that. It's basically their angles, their intelligences, and basically like in the body, the reason why you feel alive after you sun gaze or you feel re-energized, like the battery we're speaking of, is because the mitochondria that's in the cell becomes activated, right? And
I'm
that's
gonna
what
love
gives.
him. He talks about that all the time.
Oh, I know all of. I love this. Yeah, because like I said, I like to get down to what makes it work. Like we
Mm-hmm.
we know things work, right, on a
Yes.
surface level. But I'm just that person who's like, okay, I got to understand how what's the science or the intricacy or the intelligence behind it, and that's what I found out. That's why when you sun gaze and you feel rejuvenated, I guess is the word, illuminated. You feel amazing, is because your mitochondria that have been checked out for years within your cells are now back alive and they're functioning and they're doing what they have to do, and that just brings spark and energy within the biochemistry of the body. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
It's a beautiful thing.
yeah, I
Yeah.
could talk about this for days. Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican and I got a Gemini moon, so I can talk, but go
Oh,
ahead.
I love it. I love it. Dude, we should do this again once you look into Zach Bush. He says this: we are eating sunshine. We are sunshine,
We are sunshine.
because the plants are receiving it, right? So the plants feed on the sunshine, and then through photosynthesis, they kind of like digest it, and then we eat the plant, and our body reverse that process, which become the sunshine again, which is energy for our body. That's why we say we eat for energy, because we need the sunshine within us. So he says, when we hug someone, we are exchanging sunshine. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love
No, that's
this.
beautiful. Yeah, I'm gonna check him out. I'm gonna check him out, and
Yeah,
that's
every time my daughter and I hug in the morning, we say that, come here, give me some sunshine.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that's a thing too for you guys out here. I'll just throw it out there for like if you're trying to lose weight, that's one of the very known secrets is just look at the sun.
Yes, yes.
People want to diet and do all this crazy. No, I wouldn't even say crazy, but they do something that's not natural. But if you want to lose some weight, you guys just go out there and sit on the sun 3 to 5 minutes every day, and you'll see how you just naturally lose weight. So
Yeah.
there you go.
You know what I love about that? It's like a simple thing like that, right? That's free, that's easy, that's quick. It's there's not a lot of effort, right? It's how most of the tools that I share with my clients. You go out, you look at the sun, you connect to nature, you discharge a lot of stuff that's ready to go, you recharge on a lot of things that you need to have a balanced life. And then this thing that you're talking about, losing weight, the things that are making you gain weight, they get adjusted naturally.
Mhm.
Maybe you are eating because you are feeling lonely, bored, depressed, whatever you're feeling, and then you are overeating. By doing this practice, that stuff get balanced. And then if you don't feel that way anymore, you don't need to overeat anymore. And then you see the weight dropping. It's like everything happens naturally.
And the reason why that happens on a biochemical level is because if anybody knows about the mitochondria, that is the motor of what, when it's working properly, anything that you intake or digest, whether it's solids or liquids, its main function is to retrieve the nutrients. So when you're looking at the sun and you energize it, now you're allowing it to do what it's supposed to do. And like you said, it will naturally start taking the nutrients that you need and you'll start balancing yourself out naturally. Absolutely.
Do you know about the love one, the
I
raw
do.
material?
I do.
So that's what Ross says as well about the sun. It's like the sun is our logos, right? It's like we came from, we are, the earth is a creation out of the sun and we are creation out of the earth. So it's like we are just recharging from our creator.
No, that's really what it is. The sun is the main character in this stage. It really is. The sun is needed, and that's what people don't understand. Just like you said, we have our own human way of photosynthesis when we're sitting out admiring the sun, receiving that, because not only are you receiving physicality and feeling good, but mentally, like you said, you clear yourself. You get these thoughts, you get these downloads, and then spiritually, you just feel amazing. You build that electromagnetic field, your aura, and you can just walk around and people can say the craziest things to you and you just smile. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
You remind me of something that I read on when you were in love with someone. They were talking about that, how much so that what we really are eating is the sunshine coming
Mhm.
from, the plants and everything. It's like they say, what we need necessarily, it's not necessarily the food, but the light within the food. So if you have other ways to recharge that light, you don't necessarily need the food that much. So much so that people fast for the longest time and they're fine, right? So they talk about this when someone is in love, because you have such this admiration for the other person, you want to be around that other person so much, you are exchanging so much energy by being around that person, you forget to eat. And I can relate. I can remember
Right.
like periods of my time that I was in that period that I was like, oh my gosh, we're just here talking and hanging out and cuddling and doing this thing, like most of the day we haven't eaten yet, and you don't feel hungry because you are being recharged by that light energy that you are exchanging with them. And oh my gosh, it's like it makes perfect
That's
sense.
amazing. No, it
Yeah.
does make that's and just like you said, it's that light, it's that electricity because we need that electrical charge. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, I'm big on astrology as well, and medical astrology. And coming up for me, the moon is going to be coming into Capricorn tomorrow or tonight, like at
Ooh.
1:17 in the morning. So that's a good time to fast for Capricorns because anytime the moon crosses your sun sign, it's there for 2.5, 3 days. And it's a beautiful experience if you can just kind of buckle down and just fast, whether it's just completely not eating or maybe it's just liquid, but having that intention. And what ends up happening is that there's a electrical charge that's actually manifested in your sacrum. It's a charge. And when you fast, you're raising that electricity to go back up to the head, the Sarah Abraham, the cerebellum.
Hmm.
So you're able to, whoops, let me shut this off. But you always want to fast when your moon crosses your sun sign because
Hmm.
that's when you can. It's like a rebirth. It's like in the Bible or religious when they talk about Jesus being born. You have an actual baby. It's a physical charge that when it's born, now you got to take care of it for the next 2.5 days. You got to be on the right hand path. You can't be indulging. You can't be a gluttonous. You got to be moderation and balance. That's why if you fast, you raise that charge. It goes back up to the pineal gland, and then the pituitary gland. The milk and the honey. It comes back down and rejuvenates your body. So it's a beautiful electrical experience. Yeah,
Hmm. And such simple things, right?
yeah. It's
What?
it's it's
Yeah.
it's
It's
simple,
it's
but
like
we think it's hard. You know what I mean? Because it's foreign to us, right? We
Yes.
weren't raised like this. We're indoctrinated a different way. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like to be good and to be powerful, it has to be, I don't know, expensive, take a lot of effort, be very
Mhm.
complex and complicated. Nah, not really. What I've been learning, the more I study, like the people I follow, it's just the simplicity of it. I've been learning from Dr. Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Zach Bush, like I was saying, A Course in Miracles. It's like what I um, guide my clients to do. It's stuff like meditation, gratitude exercise, journaling, go out in the sun, step barefoot on the ground, eat your fruits and veggies, drink water.
It's all free.
It's
It's all
so
except the fruits and veggies, unless you're growing them. But
right. But it's like you gotta buy food, right? You can buy the process, you can buy the good stuff. It's kind of like it's the same thing,
it's
and then one one excuse I would say for lack of a better word that people bring with the food, it's like it's very hard to eat fruits and vegetables and buy everything organic and do this and do that because it's very expensive. But when we do a lot of the cheapo deepo processed stuff, there's the medication on top of it because it's going to cause some misalignment in the body, so you're going to get into some sort of medication that's going to be some money invested there too. So it's like if you look at it as a long-term investment, it's a lot cheaper. And it's like you said, you can start cultivating that in your house as well. Even if you don't have a backyard, you can do some stuff indoors that you can have some of that stuff coming from your own house. And then you buy the other stuff that you can't plant yourself. So it's like on the long term, I don't look at it as being, more expensive than eating shitty. Not at
no,
all.
not at all. And it kind of like just to kind of because you made a point. What we're doing is that we're retrieving energy. So that's why it's good to have these fruits and these vegetables because good alkaline food, you know what I mean? Because that's the energy. And if you really think about it, like you said, it balances itself out. I know right now they raised the price because they understand what's going on here, right?
Yeah, it's so
But
unfortunate.
yeah, but when you're doing all these protocols and you're in gratitude and you know everything is balanced and you're working on your journey and your path, you may buy all these organic fruits and vegetables, but you're going to eat less of it because you're not hungry. So it balances itself out.
That's so true.
So true, right?
It's kind of like the thing that we were talking about, like you go out, and stare at the sun, you step on the ground barefoot and all of that, and all those simple natural little things that you are doing are kind of resolving the feelings that are causing you to eat too much or to eat the things that are not good for you, be it the anxiety, anger, whatever it is that you're trying to suppress with this stuff. Naturally you're not going to have the need for it. It's exactly what you said. You're going to have the need just of that energy for you to go about the day. So that's a lot less than the overdoing with all the process and even substance get in there too. Like we were talking about in the beginning when we were mentioning my dependency on alcohol in the past. I feel like doing all these practices and getting your body, your mind, your spirituality back into balance, into harmony, those things that you have in your life that are not really doing you any good, like I had the alcohol, the cigarettes, all that stuff, that are not doing you any good, I feel like those things are dropped naturally because you
Mhm.
don't feel the need for them anymore, like because everything else is getting back into balance. Like the journaling, it's a big one to see whatever is going on in the mind, put it on the paper so that you can, take a look at it and see what's happening in there. I feel like once you have all those tools kind of like working for your advantage, there's no space for the substances, for the junky food, and all that stuff, that unnecessary stuff that the ego thinks we need. I feel like they drop naturally.
No, they do because, and this is kind of how I see it in my perspective from what I'm learning and practicing is that, anytime we have some type of addiction, we always think of it as mental, right? So people will do the mental work and be like, okay, I'm good. They'll go to an AA meeting or whatever it is their outlet to kind of get this addiction out. But you don't understand that everything begins with a thought, and then a thought will actually manifest physically. So even though you may have worked on it mentally, physically those toxins have now created and become physical, and they're hiding in the deep layers of your muscles. So by doing the tuning, by doing all these practices, it will naturally just eradicate and release the actual toxins that were once mental that are now physical that need to come out of your body and you just come into harmony. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I see a lot of people like, you see people who have addictions, they'll be good for 5 years, maybe 3 months, 10 years, and then they'll relapse.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're not mentally strong, it's that physically those toxins are hiding in an area way below that. And that's what you need to release. That's
Mhm.
what you need to get out of your body. So
And maybe even the emotional, like the thing that was causing it in the first place, might
mhm,
not have been addressed. So if it's been sitting there
that's
late,
true too.
yeah, that emotion will probably come up at some point. Something will ended up triggering it.
Trigger. Hmm.
And for that, I would talk about meditation. Like,
Absolutely.
the level of self-awareness that you can hit with meditation, it's absurd. It's so incredible how
Oh
much
man,
you
don't get me
can
started. I'm big on meditation and breath work. I'm
yes.
always is the breath.
Oh my
You
god,
can
the
you can
breath
you
of
can go
life.
without water for a couple weeks. You can go without food for a couple months, but you can't go without the breath for a couple seconds. And people need to understand that the breath is so important when you're actually breathing. I actually just learned it. I've been doing this for a while, and I think it was about 5, 6 months ago. I just finally figured out how to breathe correctly. I thought I was breathing correctly the whole time, and I wasn't. And I finally expanded my vagus nerve, and now I'm breathing from this. You know what I mean? So go ahead and elaborate. Yeah, we can talk about this. I love breath work.
We do that stuff too. We use the forks, we use the weighted forks on the diaphragm to expand the diaphragm so you are able to expand. And so funny. So I'm going to link that to losing weight again, because there's this thing of like when we are overeating a bit more of what we know we're not supposed to because it doesn't do our body any good, we create a little belly, right? And then we create a habit to pull in the belly and hold a little bit, and we're holding our breath as we do that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Interesting. I
it's so,
never thought about that. Interesting.
when I learned that the first time, it was in my training with the sound healing. When I learned that, I started noticing with clients that would come, and one of the things that they would complain. So when they are on the table and we are doing work on the field or on the body, it doesn't matter, stuff will come up. A lot of the times people cry or people shake or, feel cold or too hot or, start laughing uncontrollably. There's stuff that's coming up. There's emotion that's being released. It's kind of like in ceremony
Right.
that will be released somehow. There's the purging, right? People yawn on the table. So all of that stuff also happens. And one of the things that they say, it's like, it's been hard to breathe. It's been hard to breathe. And I take the weighted forks and I strike them and I put the vibration on their diaphragm, expanding the diaphragm and telling them also, hold the intention with me of the diaphragm expanding like a balloon and allowing the breath to fill your belly, and then let it all out, but all out until it's like nothing, and then expand it again. And then I explained to them this stuff that we learned about, if you're trying to hide a little bit of a belly and you are pulling it in, you are holding your breath because you have to. How can you breathe deeply, right? Holding a little bit of your belly in,
That is so funny. That is so
right?
funny.
To breathe that big one that you fill your belly with air, you're going to expand your belly. The whole diaphragm, your belly will expand. And so they tell us the same thing that you're saying. You're like, wow, I never look at it that way, but I do that. I do hold in a little bit of my belly. And so it creates this habit of breathing very shallow because you can't expand the belly, right? So one other thing that it's like we're talking about, you get into these practices, you become aware of these things that you're doing.
Hmm.
Just like I'm talking about meditation. I started meditating and now it's so much more clear to me when things happen in front of me and I would get triggered. Like the old drunk Mayara would probably like be angry and start attacking right away. Now that's not there. It's kind of like even stuff that was supposed to make me angry and stuff, I kind of like, I acknowledge that it had happened. I don't also like, I don't hide from from the stuff that comes up in life. Life will throw stuff at you, to deal with, and there's a lesson there to be learned and move on. I don't get so reactive anymore. It's kind of like, wow, why did I manifest this right now, you know
Right. And that's it's funny you say that. Yeah, because I had a conversation with my nephew about a month ago, and basically that's what I was trying to explain to him in situations when things come back into your energy field to test you is like you have to have a sense of non-detachment. it's not that you're unemotional. That's not, and he couldn't understand the correlation. It's like, it's not that you're trying to be unemotional, but it's non-detachment of what's going on in that, because you're aware. Because
Mhm.
anytime you're aware, you're not attached to anything.
Yeah,
You see what I mean? So no,
yeah,
absolutely. That makes total sense.
yeah, that's right. So I would say after I started meditating, like very regularly for years, and that's the thing too. I feel like people lose their patience with meditation because it's a process, right? It's a
Mhm.
practice. It's not a thing you're gonna do for this many years or whatever, and it's like check done. It's a lifestyle. So after I implemented this lifestyle and I'm very diligent and very consistent with my meditation, I noticed this kind of stuff. There is no reaction to other people anymore. A funny thing that I was talking with a friend the other day around this that is interesting. It's like I don't catch myself having to say sorry anymore. Like I don't
Yeah.
even remember when I had to
Right.
apologize because you are just so calm and sitting in your energy and responsible for your own energy that there is no reaction that afterwards you got to go like, oh my bad, like I should have thought better, whatever, whatever, whatever. It doesn't happen anymore. It's just like you're so chill, and things will happen, you're going to be aware of it, and you're going to have a response, right? A grounded, informed response rather than blowing up on people and then having to be apologizing to everybody. So we were having this conversation and I was like, wow, there's so much time that has been passed that I haven't thought about it that way. And it's true. Like I don't even remember having to apologize to people for the longest time, because everything is chill. Like I carry this chill energy and then I attract the people that, we have this chill interaction and everything goes good. We have a good time and then okay, see ya. You
No,
know?
that's how it works, because like me, like I'm the number 9, which is all about flow. And I
Mhm.
believe when you start to understand who you are and how, because everybody's different, uniquely beautiful, everybody's
Yeah.
design is specific in intriguing way. But when you understand how to embody that and flow with that on a daily basis, like I'm all about flow. You know what I mean? So I'm like Bruce Lee says, be like water. That's that's one of my I love that, because there's so much power, even though it's so simple with what he said. And with the meditation, um it gets to the point now, like I don't know if you experienced it, but are experiencing it now, but with my meditation now, you're like, you can literally go within, silence everything, focus on your breathing, and you can feel within your body the discomforts of where they're at, and you can take that energy in your breathing and push it with your intention to heal, just simply through breath work and meditation. It's a very beautiful thing. Very beautiful thing. I don't know if you experienced that or
Oh, I love that you do that. So we do that in sessions. The
right.
breath is a huge part of our sessions. So the job of the client is to be breathing
Hmm.
intentionally. Of course, they're going to be breathing, but intentionally with your attention and awareness on your breath, carrying it throughout your body. So it's like noticing, using your breath to be present in your body and noticing what is your body showing you. Where is the area of tension? Bring your
Right.
breath to that area and allow it to release. Just like you were saying that you do yourself, we do that in session. And with the use of the intake of the sound from the forks, that gets like amplified and very powerful because it's like the sound goes right there. And that's the thing too. It's like when I'm working with a client, it's not me doing the healing. I don't believe it's the fork doing the healing. It's the body of the client doing its healing. It just uses the input that's coming from the fork to do its own healing. The body knows how to harmonize itself as long as it has what's needed. It has the input, the environment that's needed.
And
And
I love that you said that, because a lot of people, I think, misuse that word, being a healer. Yeah, you're helping people, but you're just basically a guide. You're a medium. You're an instrument to help that person. That's what a true healer is to me, a true shaman. You know what I mean? You're not going to that person to be healed. You can heal yourself. He's just going to guide you
yeah,
to where
yeah,
you need to go. You
totally.
know what I mean? So,
Yeah, that's what I consider myself, as a vessel, so
mhm.
much so that when it was hard for me to get rid of this stuff, get rid of alcohol, get rid of like foods that doesn't belong and all that kind of stuff, I always focus on my clients. Like the better I can do for my body to have this clean, balanced, harmonized body, the cleaner it is for energies to pass through when I'm in a healing session with clients.
Absolutely.
So it's like you look at it by the people that is around you as well. Even with meditation, my meditation teacher, I remember his answers when people would come and they would say like, I just can't get to it. I'm trying to create this consistency and this and that, but it's just like when I see, I forgot for like 3 days, and then I'm like, well, and then they don't do it and whatever. So my teacher would say, okay, so this is a decision that you must make and commit to yourself, right? You have to make the decision, because if you say, I'm going to try to do it regularly, you're giving yourself permission to fail, right? And to forget and whatever. But once your mind gets into that state of, this is a decision that I'm making, it's going to be a consistent practice that I do, right? And then it alleviates for you to remember to do it, to sit and do it and all of that. And it's true. I tried this stuff myself and my teacher was teaching it until I got to that point of making the decision. This is how it's going to be. Nothing was changing, And so with that, also, another thing that he would say was that sometimes it's hard to do it for yourself, because some people have a lot of difficulty with that. And that's my story as well. That is like, sit there and do nothing. When I was growing up, I started working very early. I was like 12, 13, I was already working. And the environment, the conditioning around me was that you have to be doing something. You have to be this human doing, not human being. And if I would want to sit and do nothing, it's like you're too lazy and this and that, and you can't do that, right? So as an adult, when I started meditating, it was very hard for a conditioned body to be moving and doing, to just sit quietly. It was like, you are killing me, right? So what my teacher would say also was that if it's hard for you on the beginning to do it for yourself because your body's so conditioned to be doing things, do it for other people. Think about the better person that you're going to become for your kids, for your parents, for your siblings, for your, love others, whomever is around you, whomever you have a relationship with. You're going to be a more grounded person, a calmer person that, like we were talking about, that responds rather than reacts and jumps on other people. And then people would go like, oh, now I can do it. I'm going to be a better parent and not lose my patience with my kids. Now I can sit and meditate, and I can tell them if they come and bug me, I can say like, no, buddy, you got to go now. You got to leave me here for this amount of minutes because I got to do this for you.
And that's what you're saying. It's all in the discipline. It's all in the discipline, because we're, like you said, everything, even from my childhood, my traumas, we're programmed. So when you do something, when your body is reacting to something that's so foreign, that doesn't even understand what you're doing at the beginning, even though it always does, we're programmed and we're conditioned like that. So you got to break through those layers slowly by slowly. But you have, like you said, you have to be consistent. You have to make that decision, and you have to be disciplined. And that's really what it's about in anything that you do, I believe. So it's just having that discipline.
That's true. That's pretty much across the board. So when I'm teaching meditation to my clients, I usually say to them, like, if it's hard for you to sit like that, you can either try to do like very little, do like 2 minutes or so. But the same thing, if you commit to 2 minutes, don't get up if you still have a few seconds to go. Wait for the 2 minutes. Your mind is going to become conditioned to like, oh yeah, we're doing this, right? Rather than getting up before. And then it gives your mind that free pass. That's like, well, sometimes we'll do it, sometimes we won't, sometimes we'll do about a minute and stuff like that. And then you never create a consistency like that. So I tell them, like, if you can sit for 2 minutes, do it, but do 2 minutes, commit to yourself and be, like, be responsible for that practice that you have committed to do it. If it's hard, even for 2 minutes, I teach them to start walking. The walking meditation, because the monkey mind, when you sit, can be too overwhelming, especially with trauma. If you come from trauma, that's how I had to start. Actually, I started like walking in nature and being very mindful of each step on the ground, feeling like from the heel all the way to the toes, like feeling all the sensations and everything, being very present with my walk, very aware of my walk. That's how I was able to start meditating. And it needed to be out in nature too. You can do it even in your room, if you can't go outside for some reason. But and also I did Shambhala meditation, which you keep your eyes open. It was very helpful for me on the beginning. You find the point and just sit there with it. It was very hard because of everything that I have, conditioned from childhood. I had to go through a lot of different meditations to get to meditate for a long time like I do today. So anyways, that there's ways around it, that there's always ways around the practices that we're trying to implement, and if there's difficulties.
No, and with that Shambhala, because like I said, I like to understand things. So that's really what the Mona Lisa, the painting, is all about. It's showing you how to formulate your face to practice to receive in meditation. So in the Mona Lisa, you want to have like a little grin. You want to have your eyes focused, and you want to have your tongue on the upper side of your on the roof of your mouth, which activates the pineal gland. So that's what the Mona Lisa is. People think it's a painting. No, it's a representation of how you're supposed to pose in your face for meditation, which
Mm-hmm.
hence is Shambhala. No,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I this is amazing. We're kind of going in different directions, but God, there was something I wanted to. Oh, so talking about breath work, right? And this is what I find interesting about breath work is that there's such an attack on breath. Like these people, these they know these energies, they know how the universe works, how Mother Nature works, you know. And there's a study that I was coming across where people who work from home or remote, who are in front of the computers or laptops on a daily basis for a lot of hours, they show how they're not even breathing, right? And it was interesting because I'm remote. I work from the laptop, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I caught myself, and I was like, you know what? That's so true because you get so focused because this is all energy, right? So you get so drawn into the laptop and the computer where unconsciously you're not even breathing. That's why a lot of people are unhealthy who have these type of positions because they're not even breathing naturally and receiving the nutrients and energy that they need. And I found that I never looked at it in that capacity. I was like, that is crazy. So a lot of people in front of computers, you're not even breathing. And then you're going to be like, oh, that's not true. Be aware and check that out. And you'll be like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah. It's very interesting. It was very
It is.
interesting.
And then they tell you to put the mask on your face also.
Um,
Oh, goodness gracious.
Not the poopy diapers, not the poopy diapers.
Not helpful at
Not
all.
at all. Not at all.
And it's interesting how they were talking about that, like with the pandemic coming out and people started working more from home. They were talking about like the isolation and doing all these things to help with the whole pandemic and all of that. But then people were dying even more because of depression and suicide and all this stuff that was happening because they were closing everybody at home and we were losing contact with each other. Total
Well,
insane.
they did that purposely because it goes back to what you said earlier about our aura. We have an aura field that invisibly we can't see with our eyes, but it's our electromagnetic constitution, our field. It's about 6 feet apart. It's no coincidence that they made the pandemic 6 feet apart from people. They
Yeah.
didn't want you connecting energetically. That was the whole purpose. It was to separate.
Yeah.
You know, they understand these energies, you guys.
Yeah, and which brings me to another point also with that. It's like that's the field that we tune with the forks, right? And we recharge from each other's field, which brings me to this point of like awareness of your environment. What are you allowing in your environment? Like boundaries, right? With people, with things and places and all of that. Like for instance, when I quit alcohol, it wouldn't work for me to keep going to bars. It's like,
I
you
see.
know, what am I going to do there? You know, everybody's drinking there on that level of, you know, consciousness, I guess, or loss of consciousness. I don't know, whatever, when you're drunk. And I used to be there all the time because that's what I was doing. But then once you are not doing it anymore, what am I going to do if I get, you know, into a bar? I'm going to sit there and watch everybody. It's like, it makes no sense. I'm going to feel so, you know, off of everything that's going on in my environment. So that's like on a higher level, right? But on a subtle level, we can definitely pay attention to like, what are we allowing in our environment? What kind of people? What do they talk about? That's all information that your field is catching on and your mind is being fed. Our mind is really being fed by everything that's going on in our environment. So even like one silly thing that we used to talk about in integration of all this work is that integration of the medicine as well. It's like sometimes in your house or in your office, whatever, you have this thing, this statue or whatever it is that someone gave to you like a gazillion years ago that you don't even like it. You might not even like that person for some reason, but the thing is sitting there just so you're not rude, right? that thing is influencing you, is influencing your energy, how you feel about yourself, about your environment, your emotions and feelings, and all of that is connected to everything that we are allowing in our environment. So another thing that Zach Bush talks about also that you're gonna appreciate, beauty. He says it's all about beauty. Like when you go and you watch a gorgeous sunset, what you are feeling is love. So it's like beauty triggers love, right? You are loving that sunshine. We say that. We say, I love this because it's so beautiful. It's there for us to love, right? It's like it's part of the creation, it's part of us. It was created for us to go and observe it and feed off of it. But then what we do is rather than going and feeding off of that gorgeousness that is a beautiful sunshine, we sit in front of the screen and we watch stuff that's feeding our mind with like shit.
That's really what it is. Bullshit. That's
These
really
are
what
like,
it
to
is.
me, this is a huge point that I talk about with my clients. Watch, be aware of what you are feeding your mind with. Like it's so enormous.
You have to. You
Yeah.
have to. And like you said, like, and I had a lesson in a lesson because once I stopped doing a couple things that was no longer me being who I was, back in the day, I was like, okay, let me go test this. I can still go to the bar. I haven't gone to the bar in a long time, right? And so, of course, a couple of my buddies set me up, let's just go to the bar. And I'm like, you know what? I got this. I'm not going to drink. Any energy, like attracts like. And that's what people don't understand about energy. You get
Yeah.
yourself in an environment where everybody's drinking, you have to have some strong ass willpower, or you
Yeah.
have to you know what I mean, because you're going to fall back into that trap. So it's very important what you said. You have to be aware of where you go, who you have around, what's in your surroundings, because you have to contain your energy. I do a container for energy on a daily
Hmm.
basis, just to contain my energy.
Yeah.
So when I go out, because when it comes to the soul, speaking on a soul level, another soul cannot impart its way on another soul. You have to give it permission. You have to consent, right? So when you do this energy, so when you do this energy container, you're telling your auric field, okay, the only thing that's going to penetrate my energy container is my true self, my inner self, and my inner Christ self. That's my mantra,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't matter where I go. Now another soul cannot impel its will on me because I'm not giving it consent. That's
Yes.
the intention.
And I love that you said that, because to me, what I learned through my experiences with the medicine was that when we sit in front of a screen, whatever that is, whatever type of screen that is, that we look at the news, at the BS that they are trying to feed our minds with, that is our permission for that stuff to come in, because we are giving our attention to it. So that is our permission. That stuff jumps in, feeds our mind. And that can be everything. That can be lyrics on songs that you are listening to. You know how if you have, I hope you listeners do moments of silence throughout the day. I love that. If you don't have that, you'll see how songs come up in your mind, and you start humming it and stuff like that. Your mind is fed with that stuff. That's why it's going to come up, right? So it's like having the awareness of what are they saying on the lyrics, what kind of conditioning is coming from, movies, shows, Netflix now, especially people working from home, is staying a lot at home. Netflix is booming now, right? What is the message behind what you are watching? Because there's so much conditioning that comes kind of like hidden in disguised as entertainment. There's a lot of conditioning, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of people cheating on people or violence or whatever it is. Your mind is feeding on all of that stuff as information. It's coming in. We think that we have this wall, right? Like, oh, I'm watching this person killing this other person there, but
Right.
it's over there. Your mind has no idea. It creates this adaptation of it's okay to watch the violence right in front of me. It's kind of like desensitized, right? You start becoming desensitized, watching again and again and again. So it's like it's a stuff that people don't think about, because like for me, I grew up with the TV on all the time. Telenovelas, lots of drama going on all
Un
the time.
camino, dos mujeres. Come on, let's talk.
You know it.
Yeah, I was raised on that too.
But that's the thing, because we are raised with it, we become adults and we, turn it on as a background sound, noise and stuff like that. And that's static. That's like, it's very bad for our minds. And then, there's all these, like the rates of anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, all this stuff going up, 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 up. And people have no idea what it is. I'm not saying that's only that, but I'm saying that that's definitely contributing. The stuff we are looking at, it's definitely contributing for how are we feeling. Just real quick, I made a video about this the other day on this lady teaching at Yale, the science of well-being. She was talking about that with social media specifically. The life of everybody is filtered in social media by, I only share when I'm at the beach and having a good time and everything is going, pink and butterflies and all that, right? So filtering their reality like that, everybody is doing that on social media. What happens is that when you come and you see it and you look at their lives through those filters, your brain is adapting to that as the norm. And that's like, you can't help it. You know what I mean? You can't sit there and say, I'm not going to do that. It's not how it works. Your brain is doing it itself, right?
You
So
will
your
be
brain,
influenced.
yes, your brain is definitely adapting to all of that as this is life, this is how it should be, this is the norm. And then you shut it off. And then you look at your life unfiltered, where all the pain is there, all the suffering, because I don't believe that we have one person alive on this planet right now that does not have any pain or suffering whatsoever ever in their lives. I don't believe we have anybody alive that has ascended in that sense from pain and suffering. It always shows up, it comes and goes and it's natural and it's fine. But then when you shut off that social media that created that adaptation, that's life, and you look at yours unfiltered with all the present pain and suffering coming and going, hence depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, not fitting in, feeling of inadequacy. I mean, it's kind of clear that that's going to happen, right? Your brain has adapted to something that is so unrealistic. And so she's teaching this course. It's the class most taken at Yale right now. It's the science of well-being. And she's teaching that. She's like, be mindful, be aware of what is your brain adapting to. If it's something that's too unrealistic, how can you feel good with your life? Your life is realistic.
Right. No,
Right?
that's
Like
no,
it's
it's
unfiltered.
and that's really what, and that's it's not even crazy to me no more. But what you're speaking on, I was speaking on to somebody else, and basically that's just what it is. Social media was created just to be social. It's just a program, But what has ended up happening is people have made it personal, like you said, because they're looking at it through a filter. They're looking at people they're trying to be perfect, or the Jones effect, as they like to call it in sales.
Mhm.
And we're not here to be perfect. We're just here to be good.
Yeah.
We you know what I mean? We have a balance. We have that polarity. There's going to be good times and bad times, but when you detach and you just navigate and flow through it, life is a beautiful experience. So
Yeah, but I mean, in that beautiful experience, we have lows as well. So
absolutely.
that you are watching, like doing fun things and having a good time and stuff, sometimes they get up in the morning, they feel maybe depressed or anxious or whatever, but they don't share it. And so
Right.
you don't have that layer of their lives, right? That's the problem. It's like, and
It's
then
fake.
exactly.
I'll
Well,
say it is fake.
I mean, you still have it. It's still real. It's a thing that it's there. But the point is, it's not being shared. And so the brains of the people that are watching them are adapting to just one layer of their lives, right? One layer of what's going on. But then in their lives, the viewers' lives, they have access to everything, to all the layers, to the mornings with depression, anxiety, to the nights with loneliness, whatever it is, that they're going through. That's natural. It's like I said, nobody's going to come here and live a perfect life. We have ups and downs. But if the brain adapts to the ups, and then you get to experience your downs, how can you not develop anxiety, depression, all that
Right.
stuff and feel like you are inadequate? And the suicidal ideation is one of the things that worries me the most. It's like, that's a dangerous level to get to, like in a time when the person is not thinking right, they can just go and do it, and then it's like one more life lost. So yeah, paying attention to our environment, for me, it's one of the main things that I teach that will really help you become aware. And it's like sometimes we don't even see the things that we are doing in our environment, the things that we are paying attention to, that we are watching, that we have in our house or whatever, the people, that might be bringing that negative influence into our lives and stuff. Sometimes we are not even aware because there's so much static. So we can't really see it because it's just like chaos going on, right? So that's why I start with the meditation. Calm everything down.
Quiet the
You're going to
mind.
be able to see all of that.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to see the people that are bringing in the negative influence. You're going to be able to see the things in your house that you don't really resonate much. Get rid of it. Everything. And you're going to be able to see the things that you are watching. You're going to go like, hold on a second. I watched this lady the other day that she was saying that now she's just like so aware that before she sits to watch something, she thinks to herself before. She's like, what am I going to get out of this? What kind of influence is this going to have in my life? And I'm like, atta girl, I hear you.
No, that's what you have to be, and that's the thing. When you're aware and just paying attention, that's a gift in itself. It's a
Yes,
gift
it
in
is.
itself.
And it's natural. It just happens. You are just naturally aware, naturally doing these inquiries like, is this going to influence me positively, negatively? Is it neutral? And you have that awareness. And then if it's negative, it's like, why bother?
No, I hear you. I hear you. Well, we're coming up here. I can keep talking, but we're coming up here in 10 minutes. I truly appreciate everything that you said. I'd love to do this again because I think this is a good building foundation to kind of
Yeah,
keep expanding on this. But
absolutely.
if you want to let people, do you have a website, your practice, where can they find you, connect with you,
Yeah,
if you want to share
absolutely.
your links?
So my website is my name, Mayara-souza.com. And you're going to find all social media, all this stuff in there. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. I'm not as present as I wish I was, sharing the tools and stuff because I'm doing so much, which is a good thing too. Like I'm working on so many projects. Like I was saying, I'm going to California next week, get a training doing, we need to talk about this next time. I'm going to do neurofeedback, the retraining of the brain with the EEG and everything. So I'm going to add that to my practice. So I'm going to California. I already started the training at a distance, and now I'm going to go and do a couple of weeks of, intense in-person training. And then I'll come back. I'll be here for a week, and then I'm going to go to the 10-day silent meditation myself, unplug 100% phone, internet, everything, just be in nature, quiet, silence, 10 days, which is going to be awesome to bring that, experience and that cleanness
It's gonna be
to my
amazing.
practice.
That's
Oh,
gonna
I
be
love
amazing.
that, man.
That's gonna be, yeah. Well, definitely we'll talk about that because that's where I'm going today, to Utah. I'm gonna go learn um, the practice of NMRT, which is basically through touch
Hmm.
releasing the toxins. So yeah, we got a lot to build on.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, let's do this again. Thank you so much for inviting me. So if you go to my website, mayara-souza.com, you're gonna find the social media there, all the information, all the stuff that I offer. I have a huge reading list suggestion because I just love to read, and I feel like we can learn so much from these people that do all these researches and stuff. So there's a lot of doctors in there, a lot of good stuff. So yeah, go there. You're going to find all the information on my website.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, my mom just stepped in, so
Hello,
mom
Mom.
came to say hi. Say hi. But yeah, I want to thank everybody once again for coming to the New Rich New Energy podcast number 13. Beautiful Myra. Thank you for sharing everything. And like I said, we're going to do this again because I believe this is a good foundation that we're building on. And we just want to continue to expand this truth. So everybody listening, be blessed, be safe, have an amazing weekend. Satnam.
That's not my friend.